And welcome to our webinar today. As you can see, we're on a new platform, so I hope you like it. We've got a few technical issues. You may have noticed, if you're hearing it, we're hearing it on the chat. There is a chime for every time somebody chats. We do actually have that switched off, but apparently it's not. So here's what I would ask you all to do. If you could limit the chat, that noise is going off every few seconds, despite the fact that I've turned it off. You'll notice at the top as well, guys, that we do have a Q&A tab. Okay, so if you do want to post questions specific to the content here, okay, James, you're not hearing any chime. We are, and we're recording. So if you guys could just refrain from chatting a ton in the chat, because it is chiming on my computer. I don't know whether it's chiming on yours, Ian.
No, it's not on mine. So
okay,
yeah,
that's very odd. Okay, well, it seems to be chiming on mine. If it's not chiming on yours, then that's fine. I can live with that if you can, Ian. So guys, we're on a new platform, so welcome to the webinar today. We're going to be discussing the subject: why would US Department of Treasury redirect billions of taxes to ROS members' grantor trusts? So this is all about signature credit recoupment. If you're brand new to the webinars here at Republic of Old Souls, welcome. We're very glad to have you with us. And I think you're going to find this content very eye-opening indeed. I know I did when I first started learning about this stuff. In fact, I got a little bit angry and a little bit frustrated that I hadn't been told this before. So I'm looking forward to Ian delivering this information for you. If you're not familiar with who Ian is our founder here at the Republic of Old Souls, also the president of our Republic of Old Souls Nation. He is responsible for the architecture surrounding all of the protocols that we have. And we're going to break down some of that for you today, which is absolutely game-changing. So just a little bit of housekeeping. You can see at the top in the new platform, we have 3 columns. We have chat, we have Q&A, and we have polls. So the chat is for general chat, just to say hi, where you're calling from. That would be fantastic if you want to chime in there. The Q&A tab is if you have a question specific to the content on the webinar, because what we do is we then collate all those questions together, and Ian and I run a Q&A weekly webinar session where we cover all of those questions. We record that session. That then gets posted onto our ROS media platform, and you can go and watch that at your leisure and get your questions answered, okay? The polls we will be covering as well. You won't see anything in the polls tab on your section, but when we go live with each poll, you'll be able to vote, you'll be able to contribute. And if you make a mistake on the poll, it doesn't matter. You can go back into the polls tab once we've launched them, and you can edit your response if you did make a mistake. So don't worry if you don't get that quite right to begin with. You can go back in and edit that. And there will be also an email coming out to you within the first 5 minutes of the webinar finishing with all of the handouts to do with today's content. So I am looking forward to getting started. I hope you're looking forward to enjoying the content as much as I am. Ian, welcome once again to the platform, and over to you. It looks like, oh, there we go. You froze for a second there, Ian, so we've got you back now.
Just bear with me 1 minute, guys. I'm having a problem with my speaker.
Just while we're waiting for Ian to sort that out, technology is great when it works, isn't it, folks? We've got people from all over the world, which is lovely to see. So we've got good mornings from the UK. We've got good mornings from sunny Northampton. We've got London. We've got New Zealand. We've also got the West Midlands. We've got Australia. We've got Canada. We've got Thailand. So we've got an amazing array of you guys jumping on all over the world, which is fantastic to see. So thank you for that. Netherlands, Hungary. Oh, everybody's chiming in now, Ian, from all over the place. Fantastic. So, guys, let's get started without further ado. Let me introduce you to Ian. Like I said, if you're familiar with Ian, you'll know. If not, Ian is the founder and the president of the Republic of Old Souls, and he is also responsible for all the architecture behind the protocols that you're going to learn about today. So, Ian, great to have you with us. Over to you.
Well, good day, everybody. Before we get started, I generally just spend a few moments on the propaganda that's out there, which I'm sure many of you have already seen about me and about my background, etc. There is a 20-year battle that's still going on between me and the British establishment. Basically, I was a whistleblower in around 2008 in the alleged financial crisis. I used to run one of the biggest financial services organizations in the UK of its type, and I had a joint venture with one of the biggest banks in the UK that actually was trading whilst insolvent, and I blew the whistle on them, and that set off a whole cascade of consequences for me. I won't go into all the details, but if you are interested, Ian Clifford Whistleblower.is is a website dedicated to the whole backstory. It's a long backstory. There are 2 documentaries made about it. And, you know, just a short précis is that the British establishment are trying very hard to cover up a £90 billion bank fraud that was across the top 6 banks in and around the 2008 to 2010 period. I blew the whistle on it. I was on the inside. I wasn't working in a bank, but my company had a joint venture with one of the biggest banks called Halifax Bank of Scotland. It was originally the Bank of Scotland, became Halifax Bank of Scotland. The bank was actually bought by the government in around 2009. And it became Lloyds Bank, that then was bought out by the government in the British government, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. It's a very, very big scandal. It is the reason why, it's the driving force behind all of the propaganda that you'll see. The British establishment employ media proxies to pump out media across all different social media platforms and other magazines and newspapers and radio shows, and even TV programs have been made about me and my backstory and how they spin it to make me look like a bad guy. And all I can tell you is that we have a very large worldwide organization. We have a very high number of members that have been on our journey for the last few years who don't buy into the propaganda. They've been on my webinars, they've read my research papers, they are very much tuned to what we're doing. And in a nutshell, what is this all about? It may appear that it's all about being, playing the game of Monopoly better and enriching ourselves with signature credit recruitment and protecting our assets. Well, that's part of what we're doing. But the real driving force behind what we're doing is the creation of our own independent nation with its own independent infrastructure. I am very well aware, as many others are in our organization, and I'm sure many in the audience, that there is this thing called UN Agenda 2030, which is the complete and utter control of humankind on every single level. I don't want to live in a world like that. In my opinion, the only way out of that problem is to create an independent nation with its own independent infrastructure and everything it needs to operate outside of the cabal's control agenda. That's what we're doing. That's what signature credit recruitment will finance for our nation, and we are determined to achieve it. But along the way, of course, we've got to recruit a nation of envoys or members of the nation And that's what this webinar aims to do. It's a kind of a two-way street. I'm going to show you how you can completely transform your game of Monopoly, which is, we'll come to that in a moment. And in exchange, we use signature credit recoupment to finance our nation going forward, which of course will be, if you're interested in being part of that nation, will be beneficial for you to literally step out of the control agenda. And that's what this really is all about. A lot of people are buying into the propaganda, who think that I'm here to try and make money. I'm not. I'm very capable of making money. I have a deep skill set in algorithmic trading. I trade a sports trading platform. I don't need to do this. If anybody thinks that I need to do this to earn a living, I don't. I do this because I want to build a freedom nation, and that's been my driving motivation for many years now. And we're making good progress towards that. We've had lots of bumps on the road. We've had lots of challenges. What we're doing is not easy. If anybody thinks it is, then they need to sit in my chair for a week, and then they'll see how many challenges we have to contend with. But I'm very determined, as is the team internally. Our team is quite large. We have over 50 contractors that work on this project on a full-time basis. That team size will increase going forward. If you're interested in joining us at some point, there may well be opportunities for you to join. There are lots of different departments in our organization all doing different things. And when we get to the build out of free energy and food from the farmer to the table, and clean water and health and travel and all of these good things, there'll be more and more opportunities for members who want to get involved and help us to develop all of those independent infrastructure items on our shopping list, if you like. So that's what it's all about. That's the big picture. Andy and I regularly do interviews, as Andy said just now. So if you are interested in knowing more about what we're doing, we have a ROS media platform. We have some very good content on there. Andy and I get together 2 or 3 times a week, do Q&As, do presentations on different subjects. So in addition to this webinar, there is the ROS media platform, and we're right on the brink of launching the Ian Clifford avatar, which has a very large amount of my research papers in it and my knowledge base, which will enable you to be able to ask it questions any time of the day or night. And you'll even be able to send it to other people that you may want to introduce to what we're doing and earn reward points for doing so. We'll come back to that towards the end of the webinar. So lots going on. We're very busy, and Saturdays is our showcase. I get asked lots of questions about what's going on, and many of them are, form the content of the webinars. And one of the questions I was asked not that long ago was this question: why would the United States Department of Treasury redirect billions in taxes to our members' Grantor trusts? And I thought, wow, that's a really good question. Why don't I make a webinar and explain all of that? So that's what we're doing today. Next slide, please, Annie. The whole construct of the world of commerce is very different from how it appears. And I've learned this over the last probably 10 to 15 years. All of the knowledge I'm going to, impart today and explain today hasn't all come to me quickly. This is a very, very long research journey I've been on. It's accelerated in the last 3 or 4 years, I have to say. I made lots of major breakthroughs in my research in the last 2 to 3 years in regards to signature credit, which is a main theme of today. But in order to understand what's going on in the bigger picture of the world of commerce, then you need to understand how it's been wired up. What is the framework that we're all living in, or playing this game of Monopoly? You know, how does it really work? There are many people out there with lots and lots of ideologies, lots of theories. Everything I'm going to present to you today, I have written deep research papers on. They're all at Ecclesia Law Institute. I'd love someone to come and debate me and tell me I'm wrong, but nobody ever does. My research, I think, is on point. It's one of the reasons why the establishment want to close me down. They actually want to jail me. They've tried twice. They haven't succeeded on either of occasions, because they don't want you to know what I know. They don't want you to learn what I'm going to explain to you today and on subsequent webinars. Now, that's not because it's unlawful. It's just because they want to keep you as a slave. The whole world system is a modern slavery system. It's a very sophisticated, very deceptive modern slavery system. And they don't want you to know it is a modern slavery system. And then if you start to realize that it is a modern slavery system, they absolutely don't want you to know how to free yourself from the slavery model. And that's what pretty much we're going to be talking about today. So that's the content. I'm sure you can all scan your eye down. You'll see what the roadmap is for what we're going to talk about. So let's move it on. Of significant importance is the foundation of the trap, and we've all been trapped unless we're living in a tribe in Africa somewhere, or in the Amazon rainforest, or we're one of the Amish maybe. We probably have all been trapped by the birth certificate registration event. And it's been deliberately put together to ensnare and enslave everyone who's been party to it. Of course, you don't realise you're a newborn baby when you come into the world. Your mum and dad are coerced to register and get a birth certificate. Well, the birth certificate isn't for the baby; it's for the placenta. And what it actually does is it creates a decedent estate. It creates like a trust that isn't of any substance at all. Trusts aren't based on substance; they're artificial constructs. So what you've got is you've got the living baby that grows up and becomes an adult somewhere either 18 or 21, and the living adult becomes the agent for the birth certificate construct. And it's very significant, this agency. The birth certificate construct is registered to the state. It belongs to them. They control it. They operate it. Everything that is going on this artificial monopoly board is controlled by those that have the birth certificates registered to them. So we, as living men and women, are not on the artificial monopoly board. We can't step on the board. We're not able to step onto an artificial construct, what I call the monopoly board. All we can do is act as the agent for the monopoly player piece, which is the birth certificate construct. It's often known as the citizen. It's known in the freedom and truth communities as the straw man. It's known in the law books as the person. It's all the same thing. It is an artificial construct. It is not the living man or woman. It is joined to the living man or woman by the agency that is created through the registration of the birth certificate. You probably have all read this. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. And that saying there that you often see on notices is telling you that the agent, i.e. the living man, woman, is responsible for the birth certificate construct and everything the birth certificate construct does on the monopoly board. So we have two realms. We have the realm of the real, which is the living man, woman, and substance. And then we have the world of the artificial, which is where all of the birth certificate constructs are operating. And everything else on the monopoly board is also artificial. Companies are artificial, governments are artificial, trusts are artificial, foundations are artificial. Everything on the monopoly board of commerce is an artificial construct. And we're going to look in a minute at the way it really works. And it starts with bankruptcy, which you may well be quite surprised to hear. So basically, at this stage, it's really important for you to comprehend that you are not this birth certificate construct, but you are responsible for what it does on the monopoly board. Now, that is a blessing, but it's also a curse at the same time. The curse is that whatever they want to do to the birth certificate construct on the monopoly board, you become responsible for it. You are already responsible for it as its agent. And the blessing is that because the birth certificate construct sits on this artificial monopoly board, it is actually a banker, and it operates under the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882 as a banking entity, and it permanently and perpetually issues banking instruments called negotiable instruments. Bank payments, mortgages, loans, credit cards are all created through negotiable instruments which are issued by the banking entity, otherwise known as the straw man, the citizen, the person, and the artificial construct of the birth certificate. So that's foundational knowledge. And, I've written many research papers on this, and I generally start with the agency and the difference between the living soul, if you like, and the birth certificate construct. Some people have said to me, does it apply everywhere in the world? And it pretty much does. It's a worldwide registration system, which is linked to, and it is intrinsically involved in social insurance. Nearly everybody has if you are over the age of 18 or 21, you probably have a social insurance number. It's called different things in different countries, but that is all linked to the decedent estate, the birth certificate decedent estate. It's all part of a centralized social insurance system. Let's move it on. Okay, so we've established that we're all living men and women, and we are made of substance. We're real. You could reach out and touch us. You can have a conversation with us. We can think. We can take actions. But on the monopoly board itself, the artificial constructs, they can't think. You can't have a conversation with them, and they can only operate if they are being moved around the monopoly board by the player itself, which is the living man, woman. And in order for the modern slavery system to work, those that control the monopoly board, which are creditors to the monopoly board, they made the entire monopoly board operate like a worldwide trust, and they made it bankrupt. And all this happened in 1933, which we'll come back to in a moment. So in order to have ultimate control over everything that goes on the monopoly board, if the entire monopoly board is operating in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which it is, and it's a permanent bankruptcy, it's not temporary. The World Trust doesn't come out of bankruptcy. It never will come out of bankruptcy, because it is a pillar of how they control the world population of citizens, of persons, of these artificial birth certificate constructs. So everything on the monopoly board is in bankruptcy, but it's also the entire monopoly board is working with money of account, not money of substance. There is no substance to money. It is just accounting entries in ledgers. And everything on the Monopoly Board of Commerce is operating in debt. Everything actually is a negative value. There is no positives. There are no positive values on this artificial world trust, which is operating in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Everything is negative, has a minus sign before it. It's just that you don't see it. If you had $1 billion in your bank account, that would be minus 1 billion. If you look at everything on the Monopoly Board, it is all operating in a negative because it's all based on debt. And the whole Monopoly Board itself is permanently bankrupt, deliberately so, because whilst it's operating in bankruptcy, the creditors to the bankruptcy can control the debtors. The debtors are the birth certificate constructs. The debtors are the governments. The debtors are all of the companies who operate on the artificial Monopoly Board, this world trust. So if you're going to control the world population, one of the best ways to do that is to make all of the artificial constructs debtors and get them subservient to the creditors in a bankruptcy. And that is exactly what has happened. And it's been going on now since 1933. Next slide. And if you want to play the game of Monopoly on this artificial construct, this bankrupt trust structure, or within this bankrupt trust structure, there has to be a dominant world currency in order for all of the players on the Monopoly Board to be able to exchange with each other. And that dominant world currency is the United States dollar. It is the world reserve currency. Before the United States dollar became the world reserve currency, the British pound was the world reserve currency. Typically, the hegemony that has the world reserve currency, and at the moment that is the United States dollar. And in my opinion, it's not going to change anytime soon, despite things like the BRICS, despite things like cryptocurrency, despite alleged wars and tensions around the world, despite all of these things that are going on, one dominant force, in my opinion, is going to remain for a long time, and that is the United States dollar retains its world reserve currency. And that is very important to you if you're interested in signature credit recoupment, because what you will be doing is recouping taxes that have been paid to the United States Treasury by the debtors to the bankruptcy trustee. And I'm going to show you how you can receive a redirection of taxes that are being paid to the United States Treasury in dollars that you can receive through a trust structure. We'll come back to that a little bit later. So the world reserve currency is very important. The money pyramid, if you like, is it starts at the very, very top with the Bank for International Settlements. You've got the International Monetary Fund. You've got the central banks. You've got the clearing banks, investment banks, structure banks, all sorts of different types of banks. All of those are also artificial constructs. And by the way, they're all operating in bankruptcy as well. They are all debtors to the original creditors that made the entire world bankrupt in 1933, that took real full effect in 1944 in the Bretton Woods Accord, are the original banking families who came together in a place called Jekyll Island in 1913 when they dreamed up the Federal Reserve Act. Next slide. So a lot of people are operating in a delusional state of mind. They believe that they have wealth, and you may believe that you have wealth. You may believe that you own your house. You may believe that you own your car. If you have a business, you may believe that you own the shares in the business. You may believe that you own cryptocurrency. You may believe that you own the land that your property is on. The problem is that all of those things were mortgaged in 1933. All of the birth certificate constructs and all of the infrastructure of the entire world on this worldwide trust were offered up as collateral for the system that we're operating in today. On one side, you have the creditors. On the other side of the equation, you have the debtors. All of the debtors are sitting on the monopoly board, playing the game of monopoly, believing that they own things, believing that there is money of substance. There's no money of substance. It's just accounting, ledgers, and everything that appears to be owned by the citizens, the straw man, the person, is actually just the title of what's called a quittable title, the holding of a quittable title, the use of the stuff. So in effect, what every citizen of the world is doing is renting the infrastructure that belongs to the creditors of this worldwide permanent bankruptcy, which happened in June the 5th, or on June the 5th, 1933. It's called House Joint Resolution 192, which was the order that was read out by the Senator for Ohio, James Traficant. You can go and pull this down from the internet if you want to read all about it. I've written a research paper all about it. And it is a permanent bankruptcy of the United States. The United States has the world reserve currency. All of the other nations joined in 1944 and onwards because it's a worldwide trust. And all of the countries that within this worldwide trust are all under the control of the worldwide system. And part of that control is the United States dollar. So Federal Reserve notes became the currency of the world. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're using Swiss francs, if you're using Russian rubles, if you're using any other type of currency or Bitcoin or anything like that, ultimately it's all balanced back to the United States dollar, or FRNs, Federal Reserve Notes. So all there is on this monopoly board is artificial money of accounting money, not real money, nothing backing money apart from the infrastructure of the world, which has been mortgaged to provide the system, and one critically important component. And that critically important component is the energy of the people. The energy of the people is being used to finance the monopoly board, this artificial bankrupt construct, which is actually a worldwide trust. Next slide. So how does the money supply really work? If you've ever asked yourself the question, where does the money come from? Not that many people ask that question, to be quite fair. But I've asked it to myself in the past because I was a money manager and I didn't actually know where does the money come from. And it's quite interesting when you get into the subject of money supply. The world's money supply effectively is accounting ledgers. There is no money of substance, but it is all backed by the energy of the people. Ex nihilo credit creation. So when the government says, we're going to inject billions of dollars into some project, some war, something or other, some bailout, whatever it might be, how do they create that currency? They do it with what's called ex nihilo credit creation. Money, basically, that is conjured and it springs into existence through a big promise to pay. The government will, or the Treasury will promise to a bank, a central bank, the Federal Reserve or a central bank, that will pay you back in the future. And because of that promise to pay back in the future, given that they're holding all of the birth certificate constructs as collateral, the central banks or the Federal Reserve will issue new currency, ex nihilo credit creation. When you go into a bank and get a mortgage, loan or credit card, when you sign for a mortgage, loan or credit card, you are creating the face value of the mortgage, loan or credit card with your signature, ex nihilo credit creation. You are promising to pay back in the future, and that promise, that signature, creates new currency, and that currency is debt. If you look at the world debt clock, which you can get on the internet, if you type in world debt clock, you will see that the world debt is going up and up and up exponentially every moment of every day, 24/7. World debt is getting bigger. So it's impossible to reduce world debt, by the way. All that can happen is for it to expand. And that is the root cause of inflation. I won't go too deeply into that. It's a webinar subject all on its own. But basically, you've got a debt-based system, which is all operating in bankruptcy, where the supply of the money is actually backed by the energy of the people. It's all negative. It's all got a minus sign in front of any digits. And it's all accounting ledgers, ex nihilo credit creation. If you want to read about it, I've written research papers about it. If you want to read other research papers, you can read Professor Richard Werner's work on the 3 theories of money and various other research papers. You can read the Federal Reserve's paper called Modern Money Mechanics. You can read the Bank of England's paper called Money in the Modern Economy. All of these papers tell you the same thing. There is no money of substance. There's just accounting ledgers, and the energy of the people backs what the so-called money supply, and it's all debt. There is nothing positive. There are no positive plus signs in front of any money. It's all negative because it's all debt based. Next slide. So I mentioned just now that the signature creates the credit. The signature is the transference of your energy from off the monopoly board, because you're not on the monopoly board as a living man, woman, but you're transferring your energy onto this artificial construct, monopoly board, worldwide trust, through a signature, through an intention to make a payment in the future. Get a banknote out and you'll see what it says on there. It says, promise to pay the bearer. It's a promise to pay in the future. That promise is backed by a signature, your signature. When you make a bank payment, you are promising to pay in the future. That bank payment is a new negotiable instrument that's being issued. It's not a transfer of existing money, because there is no money. There's only ledgers. There's only accounting. So when you make a bank payment, you're issuing a new promise to pay. You're actually issuing a negotiable instrument through the banking entity, as I mentioned earlier, the birth certificate construct. And it's all being generated because you sign something. You don't have to have a physical pen and ink to make a signature. You can type digits in a debit card reader. You can transfer your signature through an internet portal, the bank's internet portal. You can flash your phone against a reader. All of these things are signatures, and it's the signature that creates the credit. The banks take your signature and they create a debt out of your signature, and they put that debt into the world system. And guess what? They have no money to lend. Banks do not lend money. It's quite an interesting subject. That if you were ever at a dinner party and you asked a banker, if you were at a dinner table with a banker, do banks lend money? And they say, yeah, of course we do. We lend out deposits. That's what we do. And if you knew how the system worked, you could challenge the banker and say, actually, don't you take deposits based on the signature of your customers? And isn't that the deposit you're talking about? You're not talking about pre-existing money being deposited with the bank. You're talking about a signature as a deposit of energy, into the bank. The bank then creates that signature into a debt. But they hold themselves out as if they are lending their money, which justifies interest. They kind of justify, or they try and justify their existence by saying, oh, of course, the banks are taking a risk by lending money, so therefore they deserve to charge interest on the money. Well, they don't lend their own money. They have none of their own money to lend. They just take the signature. And the whole concept of interest, it creates something called securitization. They securitize the interest payments. And that is what banking really is all about. It's the securitization of the interest payments on the credit that their customers deposited with them through signature credit energy. That is the modern slavery system. You make a deposit of credit energy with a bank, they convert it into a debt, lend it back to you and charge you interest. That is the modern slavery right there. It's the charging of the interest on your energy. They didn't have any money to lend. They only had your signature to create the credit. That right there is the modern slavery system. The interest that you pay the bank, if you've got a mortgage, loan or credit card, that interest is a future cash flow that the banks can sell, and they do. And that's where securitization of the debt instruments comes in. But basically, you are the source of all of the so-called money on the monopoly board. You and all the other men and women, the living souls of the world. We are the creditors to the debt-based system, along with the original bankers who set up the monopoly board system, who set up the Federal Reserve system, who set up the game at Jekyll Island in 1913. Next slide. Now, when you make a bank payment or sign up for a mortgage, loan or credit card, your energy goes onto the monopoly board with a zero value. There is no value of human energy. There is a value if you swap it with somebody else who's going to give you a service. So if you, for example, and I've said this before, if I said to Andy, hey Andy, I'll cut your hedge if you wash my car, that's an exchange of energy, right? That's an exchange. You don't need any Federal Reserve notes. You don't need any bank payments. It's just one energy being swapped with another energy. And that is why when you make a bank payment, make a loan, create a loan with your signature or a mortgage or a credit card, your energy goes onto the monopoly board with a zero value. But because the banks charge interest on your deposit of your credit energy, there's a future value of your credit energy, which is far in excess, way bigger than most people accept. So, for example, if you got a mortgage for $1 million, you would sign the mortgage contract. That creates the $1 million mortgage, but the $1 million mortgage comes with an interest payment. Maybe it's 2 million, maybe it's 3 million of interest that the signer is promising to pay interest into the future. That creates a very high future value for the banks to trade, and they do, and they trade it through securitization. If you want to watch a movie about what banks do with mortgages and debt or credit, watch the movie called The Big Short. It's well worth watching. It tells you all about what the investment banks are doing with your credit energy. They don't actually explain it as human credit energy, but it absolutely is. And that's what the investment banks are pretty much trading every single day of every business week or every banking week. They're trading human energy. That is part of the modern slavery system. And the banks are operating on this artificial construct, this bankrupt artificial monopoly board construct, as nominees. They are fiduciaries. They are trustees for the living men and women. They don't have a creditor position. They are nominees. They are not, they cannot prove that they are creditors. They are simply nominees, meaning trustees or fiduciaries on this great big worldwide trust, this monopoly board. They are trustees for you, the living men and women, and for me and everybody else. Next slide. So a little while ago, I came up with a protocol, and it is how to recoup the signature credit energy. So all of these deposits of signature credit, whether they're bank payments, whether they are mortgages, loans, credit cards. And you might be thinking, well, how can you recoup a bank payment or a loan or a mortgage or a credit card face value? You don't actually recoup the bank payment or the mortgage or the loan or the credit card. What you're actually doing is redirecting taxes that the banks are paying to the United States Treasury for using your energy. So I'll say that again because it's a bit of a difficult one to get your head around when you first hear about it. When you make a bank payment, create a mortgage, loan or credit card, that is the creation of a debt. The banks are operating as nominees for you, the living man, woman, and they use your energy in order to expand and in order to make more profit on this artificial monopoly board. It's called hypothecation. Everything on the monopoly board is in what's called a usufruct system. It's all been mortgaged to provide the Federal Reserve notes, to provide this money of account system. When you sign for a bank payment, a mortgage, a loan or a credit card, the banks operate on the monopoly board as nominees, as fiduciaries for you. And they have to pay taxes to use your human energy. And they pay taxes to the United States Treasury, because the United States Treasury is the bankruptcy trustee of the entire World Monopoly Board, this worldwide trust. So the banks are paying taxes to use your energy. The taxes that they pay to the United States Treasury really belong to you because you created the credit energy. You created the deposits that went on to the monopoly board. You created the mortgages, the loans, the credit cards. Your energy is being used on the monopoly board. The taxes that really belong to you as a living man, woman are currently abandoned at the United States Treasury. Between 50 billion and 100 billion a year in taxes being paid by the banks to the United States Treasury, those taxes actually belong back to the people who put their credit energy onto the monopoly board, which is pretty much the whole world adult population. So when you realize that you are entitled to the redirection of these taxes based upon bank payments, mortgages, loans and credit cards, it can add up to a very substantial amount. But you can't send in a claim as a living man or woman, because the living man or woman is not allowed to and cannot step on the Monopoly Board of Commerce. They can only put another nominee on the Monopoly Board, and that nominee is what's known as a foreign grantor trust. So you are a living man, woman, you're not on the Monopoly Board. You have a player piece on the Monopoly Board called a citizen, a person or a straw man. You create a new player piece, which is called a foreign grantor trust. And this is pivotally important because the foreign grantor trust can file tax documents, or electronically is the preferred way. It's called 1099 OID. And the 1099 OID filing makes the foreign grantor trust something called a holder in due course, which is, it becomes the creditor. It becomes entitled to the redirection of the taxes, which the investment bank is currently paying the United States Treasury, and then those taxes are abandoned. So the taxes that belong to you can be collected by the foreign grantor trust. In fact, it's the only way to do it without getting involved in frivolous filing or tax filings or even criminal conduct, which some people have fallen foul of because they don't know how the monopoly board system works. So when you create a grantor trust, the grantor trust can operate as a creditor and is entitled to the redirection of the taxes, which at the moment are being abandoned at the United States Treasury. The whole Clifford Protocol, as I've named it, is a step-by-step process. There is a research document which explains it in great detail. One of our members on a recent webinar said that the whole process from A through Z is a candidate for the Nobel Prize. I'll let you decide that. There's many steps in the process that I've developed in my research. And it's 100% lawful, the way that the Clifford Protocol operates. Next slide, please. So the first thing, if you want to take part in signature credit recoupment, is the recognition. You have to tell us the names of the banks that you've been holding accounts with, whether it's accounts that you've used for bank payments, accounts that you use for mortgages, loans, or credit cards. We need to know the names of the banks and roughly when you had the bank accounts. You might just want to look at the last 5 to 10 years if you can't remember too far back, and just list out the banks and list out the amounts of bank payments, list out the mortgage face values, the credit cards, the loans, add it all together, and you'll probably come up with multiples of millions if you go back far enough. That's what you can recoup, the equivalent of those face values in redirected taxes. And because you'll be doing it through an international foreign grantors trust, you won't be receiving the redirection of the taxes back to the citizen bank account or the straw man or the person bank account. You'll be receiving it in a foreign grantors trust account, and that's where you'll be able to start using it in a private treasury, enabling you to spend from your private treasury and, get this, recoup what you spend. So you'll be involved in cycles of spending and recouping year by year. Next slide. Now, in order for this to work, we have to find the linkages. So your credit deposits, your signature deposits, your bank payments, mortgages, loans, credit cards, we have developed an AI system that tracks the signature credit from its origination all the way through until its tax payment. Now, the question of this webinar is, why would the United States Treasury, why would they finance billions of taxes and redirect them to the foreign grantor trusts? And the answer to the question is because the credit energy and the taxes being paid on it is forensically researched by an algorithmic and an AI system that tracks it from its origination all the way through until the bank's actual tax payments on the use of that credit signature energy. And because we can track it through the AI system and then file electronically to establish a whole evidence pack, if you like, that these taxes actually belong to this individual grantor trust, we can track it to thousands of grantor trusts for our members. And because of the forensic ability of the AI system to track it all the way through, the United States Treasury has an obligation to redirect the taxes to the true creditor. The true creditor becomes the grantor trust, the foreign grantor trust. So the reason why the Treasury would finance billions of dollars of tax redirection is because it's the law. It's because it's how the system was originally designed. It's because the United States Treasury is a bankruptcy trustee for the creditors. And the creditors are, in the majority, the overwhelming majority of the creditors are the living men and women who can use this system by putting a grantor trust on this artificial construct monopoly board as their nominee to collect and redirect the taxes that always belong to them, but they're now collecting it in the grantor trust rather than trying to collect it back to the living man woman, which is impossible to do, or trying to collect the taxes back to the citizen account or the straw man. And you can't do that either because the citizen or strawman is a debtor, and it is also registered to those that run the monopoly board, the controlling forces that run the monopoly board. So the only way to redirect that taxes lawfully is through setting up a foreign grantors trust, and the foreign grantors trust becomes the nominee, the holder in due course, the creditor, or representing the true creditor, which is the living man woman. And that is why the United States Treasury has no choice but to redirect the taxes that belong to the creditors, because that's exactly how the system was developed and designed all those years ago. 1914, 1933, 1944, and many other key events along the journey have created this system, and it's all in the Uniform Commercial Code and also in various other legislation in the United States. Next slide. Now, in order to go through the system that the IRS run, they run an algorithmic system. So they have millions of taxpayers that they're servicing and reconciling every single year, and they have an algorithmic system that tracks everything on the monopoly board. You may be interested to know that there is something called the IRFM code. There is a 26-digit reference number for every single signature, every single bank payment, every single mortgage, loan, credit card. The IRS, United States Treasury, track it all, every single thing they are tracking. And we have to make sure that when the grantor trust, which is filing 1099 OID and various other tax forms against this signature credit energy, we have to make sure it goes through the IRS's gates. Can you just hold one moment, Andy? It's absolutely pelting with rain and I've got a door open.
You can't control the weather.
No, I had my patio doors open. It was blue sky when we started, and it's just come down. Like
And now it's not.
Yeah, now it's definitely not blue skies out there at the moment. So the IRS have an algorithmic system that tracks all of the tax filings, 1099 OIDs, Form 56s, 1041s, a whole range of other tax filings that are submitted to them by the grantor trust. And if it doesn't match everything along the way, then the IRS's algorithm will block the redirection of the taxes. So we have to make sure there's a lot of checks and balances going on to avoid a freeze, which is called the algorithm 810 freeze. Our system already predetermines that the recoupment filing, the tax redirection filing, won't get caught by the algorithm 810 because we're doing everything in advance to make sure it sails through without being caught and stuck in that 810 algorithmic freeze. Next slide. Now, a lot of people who've read my research papers will realize that the United States Treasury has collects taxes on various tax modules from the investment banks and the taxpayers in general. Now, the taxes that we will be routing into your grantor trust, your foreign grantor trust, originate from a module, a tax module called the 945 tax module. But there are other tax modules that the payers, that's the investment banks as payers, pay taxes to the United States Treasury on a range of other tax modules. But the 945 tax module is the dominant tax module. It is the one that finances the redirection back to the creditors. It is specifically designed for redirection of taxes to the creditors. But the banks know that hardly anybody claims these redirected taxes. So the amount of redirection of taxes going on in the world at the moment is very small. It's only a small percentage, a very small percentage of elites who actually know how to do this. So because the banks know that, they pay taxes on other tax modules. But here's the interesting point. Because the creditor has an entitlement to the tax redirection, the creditor being the grantor trust, the grantor trust can command the ROS to move taxes from other tax modules that the taxpayers, that's the bank, have paid onto the 945 tax module. And that is called the Revenue Procedure 2002 to 2026. So there's actually a legislative procedure to move taxes from other tax modules onto the 945 tax ledger, which is specifically for the redirection of taxes back to the creditors, in this case, the foreign grantor trust. Next slide. So if you want to win the game of monopoly, if you want to take charge, if you want to avoid the modern slavery system and take charge of it, there are three core protocols that you can employ and you can enroll into: the envoy protocol, the asset fortress protocol, and the currency creation protocol, which is signature credit recoupment. The envoy protocol is a standing and status and standing correction that enables you to recoup the signature credit energy, operating as the occupant of the office of the general executor over the decedent estate. It puts you in a superior position as an envoy for the Republic of Old Souls. I'm not going to go deep into the depths of it here. Andy and I have done interviews on it. There are technical guides. We've done whole webinars and guides all on the envoy protocol. It's a component of the Monopoly Game Changer, which is these three protocols bundled together. It's a vital component of if you want to do signature credit recoupment. The Asset Fortress protocol is your private treasury. It is a foreign grantor's trust that enables you to spend and recoup your signature credit year by year. If you don't have an Asset Fortress protocol, we won't be able to redirect the taxes from the tax filing grantor trust to you, because we can't send them to your current bank account, because your bank won't take them. They'll be too large in size. So you need the Asset Fortress protocol, which is a foreign grantor's trust that has a private treasury bank account within it that you can use on the monopoly board, just like you use your current bank card and bank account to spend. And then once you spend, you're issuing new signature credit from your Asset Fortress protocol, and then you recoup it back through the currency creation protocol, which is the signature credit that I've been explaining. Now let's imagine that you could recoup $2 million of abandoned taxes, and you could do that within the next 9 months. That $2 million would land into your Asset Fortress protocol bank account. You could then spend that, and then the next year recoup it again. Spend it and recoup it in the following year. Spend it and recoup it in the following year. Now, in order to avoid a manual review of the signature credit recoupment, there is an annual limit of $2 million per grantor trust per tax year. So I've recently been doing a lot of research on the IRS's gates and their freezes and their manual reviews. And within the last week, I have discovered that there is plenty of evidence that if there is a substantial number of recoupments that exceed $2 million in any one tax year per grantor trust, that those tax filings can go into a manual review, and it can delay the recoupment for 6 months to a year. And I simply don't want to be involved with 6 month to a year delays and having to appeal to the IRS in relation to manual review. I want to avoid manual review. It's my opinion that we don't have any members who can't live on $2 million a year. If you're out there thinking you need more than $2 million a year to live on, then you're not in the right place, because we're building a freedom community. Now, it's $2 million per year per grantor trust. So if you're married and you and your spouse have got a grantor trust each, that's $4 million a year that you would be able to recoup if you've got enough signature credit from past bank payments, past mortgages, past loans and credit cards, spend and recoup going forward. I think it's perfectly adequate for anyone who wants to get freedom on this from this modern slavery system. Next slide. So those are your pillars: the asset fortress, the envoy protocol, and the currency creation. They come as a package, and we call it the monopoly game changer. They all interrelate. They are specifically designed to work together to provide, I believe, the remedy just about every problem on the commercial monopoly board, this artificial bankrupt trust system. If you were to enroll in the monopoly game changer, you wouldn't have to work going forward. You wouldn't have to run your business going forward unless you want to. You would be able to change your lifestyle. You would be able to join in with our Freedom Nation going forward. You'll have the cash flows. You'll be able to spend and recoup each year, completely transforming your game of Monopoly going forward. And it's all really about freedom. You can use your signature credit tax redirections for whatever you like, as long as it's lawful and as long as it can be tracked through the banking system. Then you can recoup it the following year. Next slide. Some people have said it sounds amazing, Ian, but does it work? Well, in 2024, we did a pilot scheme and we had multiple of our members receiving the signature credit. And back in 2024, that was checks that were issued by the United States Treasury. In 2025, the ex-head of our tax filing department received her signature credit recoupment, exactly in accordance with the Clifford Protocol. Unfortunately, and I'm not going to dwell on this, we experienced a sabotage event from a number of our former members of the organization that sabotaged $600 million worth of confirmed signature credit recoupment. Andy and I have done interviews on this. I've written documents on it. It's on our platform. I don't want to go into a lot of detail about it, but the key information is that the IRS confirmed in writing with what's called wages and tax transcripts, $600 million. There is a video on our ROS media platform of Angela, who's the head of our IT and technology area, holding up wages and tax transcripts that prove that the IRS had validated the Clifford Protocol, the signature credit recoupment, the tax redirections by putting it in writing. And the wages and tax transcripts are the proof of the Clifford Protocol working in 2025. 600 million of confirmed wages and tax transcripts. Next slide. And it's really all about the avoidance of the modern slavery system. Well, I can't think of a better way of having a private treasury with up to $2 million in it, spending and then recouping it the next year, and not having to be a slave in the modern slavery system in order to do it. Redirect your energy and do other things. Do things that might have more benefit for mankind. Do things that you might enjoy more. The infinity loop, spend and recoup, is where we are heading for our membership. And because our nation will have, everybody in our nation will be doing signature credit recoupment, we will be able to use a percentage of that signature credit recoupment from the members to finance the build out of our Freedom Nation. That's what it's all about. And that percentage that we'll use to finance the Freedom Nation won't be deducted from the members' recoupments, because they will recoup that donation. They'll be making donations to assist us with the growth and build out of the Freedom Nation. But whatever those donations are will be recouped in the next year. So the membership never loses anything of its signature credit recoupment and its spend and recoupment loops year by year. Next slide. And the if you want to look and see how much the United States Treasury is receiving each year, there is a deep research report on the Ecclesia Law Institute. It varies from year to year, but it's somewhere between 50 billion and 100 billion a year of taxes that the United States Treasury is receiving from predominantly the investment banks, because it's the investment banks that trade the human energy. The investment banks are trading the securitizations of mortgages, loans, credit cards, bank payments. That's where all the taxes are really coming from that go back to the United States Treasury. Now, the question that I was asked a little while before was, won't it bankrupt the United States Treasury if all of these taxes are being redirected to the ROS foreign grantor trusts? And the answer to that question is no, because there is no money of substance. There is only ledgers. It's all an accounting game. The United States Treasury doesn't need to collect taxes to finance anything. That is the reality. The United States and all the governments can create currency ex nihilo. Why do they need to receive taxes? They only receive the taxes because they built that in there to make it a modern slavery system. By redirecting the taxes from the United States Treasury to the grantor trust, the foreign grantor trusts, it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever to the financing of the United States. The financing of the United States is ex nihilo credit creation, as is the financing of all nations. It's all ex nihilo credit creation. Taxes are just there to make you feel like if you pay your taxes, you're being a good citizen. It's a complete nonsense. No government needs taxes to finance anything when they can create currency ex nihilo. And the United States Treasury doesn't need this 50 to 100 billion of taxes to finance the government's operation, because the government finances it through ex nihilo credit creation. Next slide. Now, from age 18, when you or 21 in some countries, that's when the banker, the person, the artificial birth certificate construct can start issuing negotiable instruments, start using the signature to issue this or transfer human energy onto the monopoly board. The signature from age 18, bank payments, loans, mortgages, credit cards. The best way to look at this, if you are thinking of doing this, is to think about what are the big signature credit events. Have you had mortgages? Have you had loans? Have you had bank accounts where you made a lot of bank payments? Try and remember, add them up. If you can come to $2 million, then that is what you will be able to recoup each year, spend and recoup. If you're, as I said earlier on, if you've got a spouse or a partner, they can do the same. So your household could have 4 million. If you've got kids, if you've got relatives, they can all do up to $2 million per annum per grant or trust. So if you've got a family of 5 that are all over the age of 18, that's 5 times 2 billion that you would be able to recoup for the family and spend it and recoup it. So yeah, again, I'll say it again. If anybody out there thinks that $2 million per grant or trust is not enough, then they're in the wrong place, because we're here for freedom. We're not here for buying luxury yachts and private jets and things of that type. We're here for freedom. Next slide.
All right. Well, we are now down to the top 7 questions. And thank you, everybody, for posting your questions. We've had a few in the chat, in the general chat, but you've also been very good at posting most of them in the Q&A section. So I will download all of those questions afterwards, and we will be answering those next week on our Q&A webinar session. But for now, let's look at the top 7. Question number 1, Ian, is this process entirely lawful? And what's the risk of triggering an IRS audit or some legal backlash when attempting to bypass the algorithm 810 gate that you've spoken about?
Well, the whole process is completely lawful. I've written numerous research papers tracking it all out and quoting all of the law that supports it being completely lawful. They just don't want you to know about it. There's nothing unlawful about it. It's just that they don't want you to know. But they've left the door wide open for doing it, and all the law supports it. Just think of one thing. Why would there be Revenue Procedure 2002 to 2026 that enables taxes to be redirected to the taxpayer 945 tax module, and that tax module is specifically for the redirection of taxes to the creditors? Why would they enable that? Just that one statute. If it was unlawful, why would they bother having that statute? And there's many others that verify that it is 100% lawful. You just don't want to go into a review. You just don't want to have the tax filing, electronic tax filings into a review, because it goes into a review. You've then got to argue about it, and we'd have to argue on your behalf, your grantor trust behalf. And we've got thousands of our members doing this. So we just want to avoid thousands of reviews. There is a safe limit of up to $2 million per annum, which won't invoke any manual review. There's nothing wrong with a manual review. It's just that I don't want to be involved in hundreds, thousands of manual reviews. I just want it to sail through, and it will sail through at 2 million or under, because it is 100% lawful. And if you read my research papers, some of which are on the handouts, I step out all of the law that supports it to be 100% lawful, contrary to what some other people are trying to do or have done out there, which is filing 1099 OID from the debtor entity and then trying to redirect taxes to the debtor entity. That's the person, the straw man, the birth certificate construct. Well, you can't do that because the debtor entity isn't entitled to tax redirection. Only a nominee that is operating as a fiduciary nominee for the true creditor, which is the foreign grant or trust, can recoup and redirect the taxes. And that's what stands it apart from all these other people that are trying to do 1099 OID. They're all doing it pretty much from the taxpayer position, from the citizen filing tax returns. It doesn't work. You're going to get a frivolous filing penalty. You might get worse. You might get a very heavy fine if you do that. But what we're doing is 100% lawful.
Fantastic. And again, to your point, I think we'd all rather have $2 million per year coming through smoothly than waiting and waiting and waiting for possibly more when you can recoup on an annual basis. There's only so much stuff you can buy at the end of the day. So we're looking for freedom. We're not looking for material possessions as such. Okay, question number 2. If my clean slate historical credit from past mortgages and loans totals over 5 million, how long would it take to recoup everything given the strict 2 million limit?
Well, what you've got is, you go forward, within 3 years, you'd have that 5 million recoupment, because we can set it up so that the signature credit recoupment tax redirection can be based upon the 5 million. If you've had 5 million of mortgages or bank payments or loans or a collection of them added together, then we can just file that gradually for the next 3 years. And then you've got basically, as you've just said, Andy, you've got I was once very, very wealthy individual, and I can assure you, you can't spend everything. You end up buying stuff to begin with because you just want to have fancy stuff. But then in the end, you start saving it because you can't spend it all. I've been there. I've been there 20 years ago. I know exactly what it's like. $2 million a year for a grantor trust is more than enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, third question, Ian. What are the exact legal documents or steps required with the envoy protocol to successfully prove that I've shifted my capacity from debtor agent to general executor?
Well, it's a declaration that is made to various head honchos of the state, whichever state it is you're in. But it's not a magic document that changes everything. You know, you're not going to drive down the road and the police are going to just wave you by if you're driving at 200 miles an hour down the road. It's not going to save you from the journey on the monopoly board, from things like that. You can't avoid going to court. You can't avoid being drawn in as the agent of the birth certificate construct. But what you can do is you can use it to relinquish and rescind the agency on certain individual contracts, and you can absolutely use it to make sure that your signature credit recoupment, operating as the general executor or occupying within the office of the general executor of the decedent estate, that is very beneficial in relation to signature credit recoupment. It's very beneficial if you want to, if you ever wanted to go into a court case, you can operate as the general executor of the decedent estate. I'm not advocating that, but it's very helpful if you're in that position. There's many advantages of it, but it's not just a bit of paper that changes everything. It is a declaration, and it's an intention that you have realised that you are not going to operate as the agent with unlimited liability for the birth certificate construct. You can control that with the position of occupying the office of general executor. You have more control. You can't avoid the agency, but you can take more control, and you can elevate your standing as an envoy and as the general executor of the decedent estate.
Perfect. Okay. Next question, Ian, is how does a private individual gain the legal standing and the fiduciary authority to invoke the Rev process 2002 to 2026 and force the IRS to reallocate a bank's corporate surplus into the 945 tax withholding module?
Well, it can't be done like that. It has to be the trustee. You see, the grantor trust that's filing 1099 OID has a professional trustee and has a professional tax filing practitioner filing the returns. It can only be an officer of the grantor trust that is filing the tax returns. The officer will be working for the trust company. So there is a professional trustee that is appointed to the foreign grantor trust, and it can only be an officer of the trustee that can call the IRS and command them using what's called a Form 56 to step into the shoes of the taxpayer and move the taxes from like, let's say, the 1120 tax module onto the 945 tax module. But the grantor isn't going to be doing that. It's going to be the trustee or an officer for the trustee, an officer for the grantor trust that is going to be doing that.
Okay. Can you provide a redacted real-world example of the 26-digit alphanumeric reference string or an actual perfected wages and tax transcript from the 600 million verified portfolio?
I think we can, yeah. It's not only is it on our video that you did the interview with Ange, but I think you might have one there, mightn't you?
I may have one here. I'm just looking, but if not, I did actually post, guys, in the chat a link to that video with Ange where we go through around 20 to 30 examples of wages and tax transcripts. I'm just looking to see if I can find it amongst all of my papers. If not, then we will definitely get we'll get something over to you from a link perspective, and you can watch the video where we cover multiple versions of that. No, it's not on. Oh, yes, it is on my desk. Here we go. Just bear with me, guys. I need to reach over to my wife's desk because we work opposite each other here at Republic of Old Souls. There you go. There is a confirmed and redacted. In fact, there's two. So hopefully you guys can see that. That is one of the confirmed wages and tax transcripts with the amount on there, and that is a secondary one as well. These are for the tax year 2022, and the amounts of federal tax withheld can be seen just in this little section down here. So there's some confirmation for you on that question.
And the reference numbers on those documents, that's the IRMF reference number, is on the documents.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's right there at the top, the long string at the top here, guys.
There you go. So yes, we can prove it.
There you go. Okay, question number 6. How does the Gemini Agentic AI actually gain the necessary visibility to track the bank's 945 ledger balances and identify funding shortfalls before we file? That's a good question.
Well, yeah, great questions. That is the AI system that we've created for this purpose. We haven't created the AI system, but we've tuned the AI to be able to search out the information. And what it does is it looks at the bank where the signature was used to create the signature credit transfer, if you like. Then it links the securities that the bank has sold into the investment banking arena, which is where all of the securitization investment vehicles are being traded. It then links it to what's called SEC returns, Securities and Exchange Commission returns, and in there they talk about what instruments are in these securitization vehicles, and then it tacks it to the investment bank's taxpayer modules. So all the way through, the algorithm can join it all up. There's millions of bits of data that it's compiling and searching through to find the linkages between all this. AI is ideal for this project because it can search online millions of bits of data, and it can join the data together to make a direct linkage, just like the IRS does on their IRMF system. They have a very similar system where they're tracking all the signature credit from A or through Z. Our algorithmic system that we're using, the Agentic AI system, can do the same thing.
Yeah, super powerful. Okay, final question, Ian, is do I need to have the 98 series Asset Fortress completely set up and funded before I can begin the currency creation and Clifford protocols, or can these steps be executed simultaneously?
Well, the Monopoly Game Changer comes as a package. So we start it all off at the same time. The Envoy, the Asset Fortress, and the currency creation all start at the same time. You don't need the Asset Fortress set up immediately, but we start it. We get it off the ground so that you're ready. And we have a donation program where you can adjust the amount of donation. If you want to get started with this, you can have a meeting with one of our consultants, adjust it, and get all of the bundle, the 3 components, all started at the same time and within your budget, within your donation budget. We'll perhaps come back to that on another slide.
Sure. Okay, so that's all the questions, Ian. So now we are going to go into our polls. So I've got the polls here ready. I'm going to launch them one at a time, guys. So poll number 1 is, do you want a consultation? So this is for anybody new to this, that's not been here for very long or not started with any of our protocols. Do you want a consultation to discover how to proceed with Monopoly Game Changer? Okay. And your options are, yes, I'd like to get started. No, I'm already doing it. Or maybe I would need some more information. So I'm going to launch that poll right now, guys. If you can begin your votes, that would be great. We'll let this run for a few more seconds. We've only got about 30% of you voting right now. So it would be good if you guys could contribute so that we can get some accurate figures from everybody so we know how best to help you. So we'll leave it open for a little bit more. I would love to see at least half the audience participating. That would be good. Creeping up a bit now. And remember, guys, if you voted and you think, oh, I made a mistake, I pressed the wrong button, or I voted on the wrong thing, you can go, once we've finished a poll, you can then go back into the polls tab where you will see that poll and you'll be able to edit that if you need to. Okay, so don't worry if you've given us the wrong answer. You can go back in and edit it to the right answer. All right, we'll give it 5 more seconds, guys, and then I'm going to close this down and I'll publish the results. So thank you for voting. And the results are right there. So we've got 29% who would like to get started. 54% are already doing it, which is amazing. And 16% who would like a little bit more information before they make a decision. So thank you for that. We will hide the results for that vote. And what we'll do is we'll go to poll number 2, which is if you are one of the members that received an IRS wages and tax transcript in 2025, so within that 600 million that we had confirmations of, do you want to upgrade and include signature credit recoupment back to the age of 18? And again, same thing. Yes, I would like to upgrade. No, I don't want to upgrade right now. Or maybe, but I'd need some more information. So I'm going to start that poll right now. And the votes are creeping up. Right, we've got quite a few of you that actually do want to upgrade. So that's useful for us to know, because we obviously need to make sure that we can accommodate you on the calendars of the consultants as well, because they're super busy every single week. So we want to make sure that we can set aside some time for you guys. All right, that vote seems to be kind of coming to a level now. So I'm going to close that off in 5 seconds, guys. Thank you for voting. Again, like I've said, if you've clicked the wrong one, you can always go back in and edit. And I'll publish the results now. So we've got 46% would like to upgrade, 17% not right now, and 35% maybe, but I'd need more information. So that's good to know, guys. And again, you know, that information can be got through the platform. It can be gotten through the consultants as well. But we want to obviously prioritize people who actually want to move forwards with that. So we'll make sure that we can reserve calendar space for you too. So let's go and hide that, and we'll go to our 3rd and final poll, which is if you are already doing signature credit recoupment, if you are not already doing a signature credit recoupment, do you want to do it as part of the Monopoly Game Changer protocol? All right, so that's for people who are maybe just doing what we called infinite money before, not doing it at all, but you do want to actually include it in the Monopoly Game Changer protocol. So let's start that poll. And your options are yes, I would like to get started. No, I don't want to do it right now. Or maybe, but I would need some more information. Okay. Right. The votes are going up. Thank you for that, guys. And again, we've got a very high percentage of people that want to actually get this underway. And this helps. These polls are really important to us, guys, because it helps us when it comes to just bandwidth of the team and just understanding, you know, what we need to do, what we need to address to make sure that nobody slips through the cracks. And you will have the opportunity to be able to book in with one of the consultants as well, because we'll be going through links, and we'll be going through the calendar links and kind of showing you guys how to get that underway. So this is kind of leveling off as well on this vote. So I'm going to close this down in 5 seconds. I'll publish the results. But we've got a high percentage of people that want to actually get started. 55% of you have said that you want to get started with that. So let me publish those results so you guys can see that. So 55% would like to get started. 8% have said, no, I'm quite okay where I'm at right now, which is fine. And then 36% maybe, but I would need some more information. So again, we want to make sure we can take care of you guys too and get you the information you need to make a decision. So let's hide the results on those. That's the polls. And we'll move over to the next slide, Ian, which is next steps.
And of course, this is where you can book your consultation. If you want to figure out how much you can recoup up to that $2 million a year, our consultants have a calculator that can help you to establish which bank accounts, what amounts, etc., and answer any questions that you've got. But it's really all about if you want to proceed with this, and you want to book a meeting with a consultant to go through it, then this link, which I believe will be in the it's in the chat, is it as well, Andy? This link.
I can put this link in the chat. That's not a problem. So I'll do that for you guys now, just in the general chat. I will post this for you.
And because the consultants are pretty busy, we've got 6 consultants ready to show you how to proceed with all this. Please don't book a consultation if you just want to ask questions about what you're already doing with us, because it bogs our consultants down. We really only want people booking the consultations if they intend to proceed with this, as opposed to calling the consultants about what's happening with their existing 1099 OID filing from 2025, for example. The consultant line isn't for that. It's not for a help desk. It's for enrolling into the Monopoly Game Changer protocol.
All right, so I've posted that link for you guys in the chat. Okay, so it's the lvfree.click/TGE. That'll take you through to the Monopoly Game Changer booking page. And again, you'll be able to book a consultation. But as Ian said, please, please, please don't use it as a help desk. Don't use it as a, where am I with my process? Why is my EIN number not come back? Or any of these other questions. We are on it when it comes to those things. We have an entire filing department that is on the ball with everybody's filings, and we know where each individual is at. So no news is good news. If there's something that requires your attention, not ours, we will let you know. But that requires that you go into your comms hub, you keep up to date with your communication messages there. But other than that, those calls are specifically reserved for people who want to move forwards with the protocols, okay? So let's move on to the next slide. And again, here we have a bunch of important links. So you've got the booking page link there at the top, and we've got a multitude of other links here that you can benefit from. These will no doubt be coming out to you in the email that we send. So in about 5 minutes after the webinar, there'll be an email that will come out to you. Please, please, please check your spam folders. We cannot control spam filters. So check your spam, make sure that it's not landing in there, because often emails do not inbox as well as they used to. So check your spam folders. All the handouts will be in that email, along with any of these important links. And here are the handouts that you're going to be getting as well. So there's 7 in total. We've got the money system explained. We've got another handout. You want to know how the commercial monopoly board works. We've even done a webinar on that, Ian. The Nobel Prize candidate for signature credit recoupment. That is going to be one of the handouts from the Ecclesia Law website. The Monopoly Game Changer protocol. An option to enroll at no cost. So we're trying to lower the barrier to entry here for people to be able to get the freedom and the relief that they're looking for. And then also breaking news, your signature credit recoupment. This is the update that we spoke about a while ago, and everybody keeps asking for updates. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we with the recoupment? We've already done the updates. We've already posted them. We've done videos on them. Ian's done documents on them. So we've included some of those as well. And then the final two is the banks are debtors to you. This paper explains the deception and how you can win the game of Monopoly via signature credit recoupment. And then the final one is the fiduciary reconciliation of signature credit and the Clifford Protocol. Ian's written a 13-page document on the Clifford Protocol, front to back, breaking it down step by step, all the law, all the references, all the filing documentation, everything to do with the IRS and the Treasury and how it works, even the back end of that and how the banking structure needs to be formed to allow you to receive it and use it year on year on year. It's a hell of a document, but I recommend that you read that one as well. So we get all of those out to you after the webinar. And then again, Q&A. If you've got any additional questions, now's your time to post them in the Q&A chat at the top, not in the general chat. Go to the Q&A tab, post your questions in there, okay? We'll also be sending out a form that will come out to you. We have a jot form that comes out. You can share your feedback there. You can post questions there. And what we do is we take the questions downloaded from the webinar. We take the jot forms that come back in with your questions and your feedback from the email that goes out. We put them all together, and then Ian and I will cover that early part of next week on our weekly webinar Q&A. And we appreciate your feedback as well, guys. So that pretty much concludes the webinar, Ian. We appreciate everybody joining, appreciate your feedback. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can do through admin@Republic of Old Souls to share your feedback. But any final thoughts, Ian, before we let everybody go today?
Yeah, well, I'm confident we'll be launching the avatar this week coming up. We thought it was going to be last week, but it had a couple of problems that we're resolving at the moment. And I'm confident it'll be next week. So if you are interested in more information, you'll have the avatar sent to you. If you want to use it to earn your reward points, as I mentioned very earlier on, you can send it to others. And if they use it for more than 10 minutes, that earns you $100 of reward points that you can use against future protocols that we'll be setting up, the Freedom Plan protocols, or even against the Monopoly Game Changer. And if you are an advocate and you want to use it to get referrals for people that you know to come and join our webinars, come and experience the avatar, ask questions, etc. And straight from the avatar, you can book in with the consultants team. So it's the go-to place for information. We're going to be launching another avatar, which is to do with the administration side. So rather than you having to go to our platform and search into your platform account, your admin account, you'll be able to soon go to an administration avatar that will be able to help you with whatever is going on with your Monopoly Game Changer. It'll tell you what the status is. It'll tell you if there's anything missing from you. We're working on that one as well. That will be rolled out in the next couple of weeks. So trying to make it really easy for you to introduce other people, to get information yourself, and to know what's going on with your own process by just asking an avatar, what's happening, what do I need to do, where are we at the moment with the with the filing process, etc., or any other question that you may have.
Perfect. Well, guys, appreciate you coming on with us again on a Saturday morning. We will be back again next Saturday. We do our flagship webinars every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. UK time. You'll have the handouts that will come out to you on the email shortly. And we look forward for all of you that want to get started with the Monopoly Game Changer. We are excited to get you on that journey. So thanks for attending today, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye now.